Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Riveters CAD Training Lesson 16. In this one we're going to be covering layouts and making the bumpers, at least the boards and the foam of the bumpers. Then we'll go back and add the covers and the attachment points. So open your chassis and check it out. And what we need to do is measure the width from this rail to this rail, and the front opening to the back of the chassis, and then also the width across the front. And you need to write those numbers down. So let's do that. File, open training. Base chassis. Let's open that up. Yeah, we'll check this out. Alright, so we want to basically inspect this model, so distance, measure from the front to the back. About 25 inches. Actually, from the front of the chassis, I did that wrong. Front of the chassis to the rear of the chassis is 33. Write that down. And then the width of the chassis is 30 inches. And then the opening at the front is 18. Alright, so let's create a layout sketch, bumper layout sketch. So come down, hit home, part, sketch. Well, actually, let's save this first. DWG2 bumper layout. Create a sketch. We're going to be in from the top view. Center point rectangle. Throw some dimensions on this. Front to back we were 33. Side to side we're 30, and the front opening is at is at 28. I'm going to clean this dimension up a little bit, bring this in so it's a little bit tighter. Well, this is going to get messy in a minute. Alright, so we want to lay out the bumpers. So the clearance in between the bumper and the frame, and this is the outside of the chassis, is 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to put the rear bumper in. And now let's set the thickness of the bumper is 3/4 of an inch. And from the face out, since it's 3/4 of an inch plus 1/8, from the face out is 0.875. Same thing here. It's 0.875. And then let's set the distance to the frame at 1/8. So our bumper in the back is gonna look like this. Now let's do the front. Same thing. The thickness of the bumper is going to be 3/4 of an inch. Then we'll have 1/8 of an inch to the frame. The reason we put 1/8 in there is for the material, for variation, for warping, other things along those lines. I'm going to set this, hopefully this is, I'm going to set this end, and why are you complaining at me? I'm going to set this point right here be in line with this side of the bumper. And now, and then from the center out to the edge of the bumper, that's 18 divided by 2. Okay, so we've got the front piece, and let's duplicate this here. It goes a little bit faster when you start using the inline function. So I'm going to say this is in line with the lower one. And the upper one is in line with the lower one. And this line is in line with the rear. You'll notice there's several ways of doing everything, so and this opening is 18 divided by 2. Now we need to put in the the side boards for the bumpers. So let's inline that end. Oops, wrong one. Inline, not symmetric. This one's in line. I don't want to, if I do inline right now, it will invert. So let me set this to 1/8. While I'm doing that, let me set this dimension to 1/8. And let's put the ends in line with the face. The outside face flush to the other side. Alright, now part of the layout, and this was not in the PowerPoint, I would like to add what are the round cylindrical pieces of foam pool noodle going to look like. So they're 2.5 inches, and we'll come up to here and come down to that point. Down that point. That point. Alright, I'm now laying in the pool noodles, what they're going to end up looking like. Well, so let's work our way around as we set these things. So the pool noodle itself is 2.5 inches thick, and the cut we want will be 45 degrees. And what that does is automatically drives the other half of this across. So now let's bring that point. Obviously I didn't get that set correctly. Well, let's set that to 45 degrees. Set the end of that point to the end again. Set this one to 45 degrees. Change the line to be, in this case, if you look through the cube, this is vertical. Set this one to be 45 degrees also. Suppose we can make it parallel, but Alright, so from the top view, this is how the bumpers are going to look. So this is your layout. Let's also throw some dimensions in here, because what this is going to do is it's going to tell us some lengths. And see how this is saying, right now it's saying that it's a driven dimension. So when it goes in, it puts brackets around it, but you need to know that number, 6.875. Write that one down. This is 33 because this is the overall length. Actually, it's greater than that. The board's going to be 33.25. So let's take that, write that dimension down. And then at the back, normally what we do is we split this at the back. That way when the two bumpers come together, if there's some sort of tolerance stack, you don't end up having a problem with them not fitting. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say split this in two spots, keep splitting. I'm not going to split the chassis itself because that doesn't make sense. And split here, split there. Let's delete the extra pieces. This dimension's in the way. I think I also smoked a dimension off while I was doing that. Let's come in here and set the gap to 1/8. Purpose of layout is for you to come back and to clearly get a two-dimensional sketch on what you're doing. And then there's a clear understanding of what the plan is in the future. When I was deleting dimensions off, I ended taking these away. So the end of the bumpers are shorter, so let's put a dimension in on this length, and this will be a reference dimension also. So 17.75. So we got 6 7/8, 33, and 15.75 inches. Alright, so that completes this sketch. We could probably duplicate this and bring all this geometry along. However, I would just rather save this up into Vault, check this in, and now we have a reference dimension of what we're going to end up doing. So let's go through and create the boards. So we're creating, let's create the front board first. Bumper front board. So we'll be looking cross car. Sorry, I just said an automotive term, which means we're looking at cross robot. That was unique. I must have finished the sketch somehow. Alright, so the bumper thickness is 3/4 of an inch. And the height is 5 inches. We're going to extrude this. I'm going to do the sim op too, just so I've got a center point. 6.875 for the thickness. And now I'm going to set this to wood birch. It's the closest we have. I wouldn't mind sticking plywood in, but it gives the idea of what's going on. And now we have the actual part. Let's say file save. We'll check in. And then let's do a save as on this one. I'm just going to change this to rear. And let's just change our extrusion length to 15 3/4. Save that, check it in the vault. When you duplicate these parts, it goes pretty quickly. Now let's create the side one. And this is 33. Oh, 33 1/4. Because we need the 1/8 on each end. Save this. Check it in. Alright, let's create the assembly for the bumper. We could put all this into the main assembly because it's very, very, very crowded. Okay, DWT2 bumper assembly, vault, place. I'm going to come down and grab these. Front board, rear board, side board. You can actually do multiple selects. It will bring them all in. They kind of tile together. So that's the left side. This is the right side. As much as everybody hates it, let's turn the planes on. First things first, this is front, so let's take the centers of the side pieces. That's front, there's the side, there's the side. So let's open both of those up. Let's establish the sides first because constraint. And let's find the mid plane, set that to mid plane, apply. Let's find the mid plane on the second board, set that to the center, apply. And just so we get this thing referenced, or get it kind of grounded quickly, let's get the side pieces down on top of the bottom plane. Same thing with the rear pieces. Let's just get those set down onto the plane. Alright, so we're down. So now let's set the face of this board to the face and set that to a mate. And remember we had the 1/8 inch gap at the back. Let's put the 1/8 inch in. This is probably going to be on the other side. So we have to switch from a mate to a flush. Put an 1/8 inch into there. Alright, now these are in the correct location. Let's get the bumper to come across. So I'm going to have this mate flush to the front face to the end and apply that, and then I'm going to flush the rear bumper to the end of the side and apply that. Alright, one down. We're now set to mate to the mate, so I just, so we don't get an extra click in there. And I did that wrong. That's, I'm going to cancel out of that one. Bring it flush up to the face, and then change this to a mate in between. Let's see what I have two here and there. Yeah, let's add another one. Here comes the inside face. Apply that, and we'll flush the outside of the end board to the bumper. Alright, we're almost there. And this is going to be a long one. So land that board. Land this board. Both of those were set wrong, so let me change that. Apply. Let me go back and fix this one. I'm going to edit it, and I'm going to change it to, see how I open that up? Let's bring the outside face flush to the outside. Flush to the outside. And then we're going to do a flush mount in between. Oops, that jumped weird. That's going to have to get fixed. Sometimes the planes get in the way. You have to turn them off. They're a double-edged sword. Alright. Before I start turning planes off, oops, that's not done. Alright, so now we have the bumper assembly. Let's say save, vault, check in, OK. Let's come back to the chassis and assemble that into the chassis. DWG2, bumper assembly. Yeah, this is where planes pay off. So let's turn on all three of the planes here just so we have them. I know this just drives some of the kids nuts. That was done right. We need to switch directions so the opening's to the front. Let's set the outside face to here. That applies. And then let's set the bottom Alright. Let's turn those planes off. Come back to, let's shut down the bumper layout. And close this board. Okay, so we have the bumper layout. Now we need to add pull noodles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create one noodle and then I'm going to copy it. We struggled with this in 2016, or actually 2017, on actually how to put the bumpers into the assembly. I always tell you to put the center of the sketch on the origin. In this case, we're going to do this a little bit different. So we'll start with the side piece, which got a chamfer on both ends, and then we'll move into the end pieces just to make this process go faster, since we're coming up on 25 minutes. I bet you we got about another 10. So home, new, save as, PWG2, pool, noodle, side. Okay, so let's create a sketch. So all this time I've been telling you to go on the origin. Now I'm going to do something different. So pool noodles are 2.5 in diameter. Let's set the outside to the origin and then put a horizontal dimension in between the origin of the sketch and the circle. So you can say, why are you doing this? Well, when we assemble this, it's really hard. You can use a tangent to command, but if you go face to face with a plane and we put another plane on top here, it's going to make life a lot easier. So we were 33.25 long, and then we'll be 2.5 on each side longer than that, so we're going to be 38.25 long. Symmetric. Alright, let's do a couple things here. It's going to get confused, so let's make this. It's not really polyurethane. Autodesk Material Library has more materials in it, so I'm going to come in and use the Inventor library. I'm going to set this to polystyrene, and let's see if when I go to the Autodesk library, if I've got it in there, it brings the rest of them up. So I'm going to use polyurethane foam. It's really not polyurethane foam. Polyurethane foam. I'm going to make the pool noodles olive. That looked about as close as we have to the green pool noodles we have here. Alright, I'm going to put a couple things in. Turn on the so this plane, we want to have that turned on, and I'm going to temporarily turn on the XZ plane. I'm going to create an offset plane and come up 1.25 inches, so that's for the top, and do the same thing for the bottom. And it just yelled at me. I'm going to turn the mid plane off. Now, looking from the top, on each end there's a 45-degree cut, so I'm going to create that cut right now. And when we do cuts in the center of a part, you can't see the cut that you're creating, so I'm going to change this to wireframe mode, and we're in Sketch. We're going to project the geometry of each end and each edge of the tube. Okay, so I now have reference. Let me go back to the top view. And now I'm going to create a triangle or wedge at this end. Set that to 45, gone to blue. Do the same thing on this end. Set this to 45. I'm going to create a cut. I'm going to go through all. I'm going to have this cut symmetric. And I'm going to touch. Oops, that is not right. Let's see, shift, select. That did not go the way I wanted it to go. Sometimes it's better just to back out. So let me select the profiles right now. Extrude. This is fighting me the whole way today. Okay, so the sketches somehow we got projected loop in here, so let's come in and let's clean this up. I'm going to turn off the plane so I can see what's going on. Same thing with this plane right here. These two work planes I'm going to turn off. I'm going to delete these projected loops. And I'm going to come back in on these work planes and shut off the visibility on those so I get a clean. I can see exactly what's going on. A little concerned that the end is this is showing as green since that's on the projected geometry. I'm going to delete my way out of this. Project this geometry, get a line, come back. Okay, let's put 45 degrees in there and see if that cleans up. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this projected line right here and I'm going to delete that. And then set this line to the end. Should be good on that one. Okay. And it's not going without a fight today. From experience, I know everything's supposed to be hunky-dory and okay, let me see if this will actually extrude. There we go. This is going to be my master part too. Alright, we're back. So I'm going to say save files vault check-in. Now, in order to make the other two parts, we'll just do a file save as. Let's do the front first. First thing is the overall length. We were 6.875, 6 7/8 plus 2.5. So 6.875 plus 2.5. That will take us out to the thickness. Alright, now we have a cut on both ends. One of those cuts need to be deleted. So let's come in on the sketch. Let's delete off one end here. Alright. Finish the sketch. Man, this can't not be confidence install in building here. If you hit the control key over and you hover over a line and you're trying to do a select, we'll bring an option menu up. Let's see if this Alright. There we go. Save it. Check it in. Oh, let's turn these planes back on, because we're going to need those in a minute. Check it back out. Check it back in. Say yes. Okay. Almost there. Alright, we're going to create the rear pool noodle. Change the extrusion length. The rear was 15 3/4. And then we have to add 2.5 onto that. 15.75 plus 2.5. Alright. Save that. Vault. Check in. Alright, so let's start adding parts. I'm going to do the same thing we did before. Pool noodle, front, rear, and side. In this case, each side is going to get 4 of the parts, so we need to click four times. Let's open this part up and turn on the center plane. It's going to ask me if I want to check out. I'm going to say yes, and then I'm also going to turn on the working surfaces. So to keep this clean, let's do the sides first. XY plane to XY plane, and that did not work correctly. XY plane to XY plane, apply, XY plane, XY plane, XY plane, XY plane. A whole bunch of constraining on this one. Alright, now we want to get the faces of these lined up to the face of the side, the bumper side plate. And that's that. So that's a flush command or a line command. Okay. Let's finish these two off. I'm going to take the top plane and go to the top, apply. That pool noodle's now in place. Alright, so that's, we now have 2 of the 12. Alright, so I applied those 2. Now I'm going to take and align to the top. Oops, that did not. Alright, so that bull noodle's in position. Those are in position. Alright, so let's start cleaning some of the mess up. Let's go back in and turn these planes off. This will clean the display up. It gets a little messy initially, and then as time goes on. Alright, so let's save this and check this in. Yeah, we're at 45. We're going to be at 45 minutes. Sorry about that. Alright, let's do the front pool noodles. We set the face, so grab this face. Set that. In fact, while we're at it, let's finish this one off. Sometimes you can do things assembly line style and it makes sense. Sometimes you just need to finish the one part you're on. And that is the wrong one. Cancel that. Well, that's going to require a little fixing. Forgot the thickness of the boards when okay, those two are on. Let's finish these All right, this is a case where there's so many planes on top of each other. This is where I understand people's arguments. So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to bring this outside so I can get a clean shot at it. We already put the constraint to the face on the end. Now we need to grab the YZ plane. All right, 2/3 done, plus a little cleanup. Let's go in and open up and turn these planes off. Oop, keeps doing that. Save, alt, check in, yes. It's a fair amount of work running right now, so there is a danger that it can blow up. In fact, let's do that right now. Let's save. I'm going to check it in and then immediately check it back out. Murphy has a tendency to show up and remind you who is boss. Okay. Let's get the depth set on these. Let's get the height locked in. This is worlds easier than before. We were using tangent commands and it was not going well. Alright, that's in. Those two are in. Alright, time to finish this up. In fact, while we're here, let's get this in position too. As you can see, there's a lot of spinning and rotating to get access to the surfaces you need to assemble. You could pick from the model tree, but it's not very intuitive. I'll pull that out so I can get a... Try not to do that because it just adds more mouse clicks. Here we go. That one's not constrained correctly. We'll fix that. All right. So obviously this one's not constrained correctly. So how do you fix something like this? First thing is you highlight it, and then you see where it lights up on the tree, and you'll see there's a number of functions in here that are showing the constraints. As you hold over them, you can check. So this is flush to the end. That looks good. This constraint looks like it was from the mid plane instead of the face. So we can go in and modify that. However, I find it's easier just to delete. And let's drag this out. And then now let's put a constraint in. And this may complain. In fact, probably the second constraint below has got to get deleted and redone. I'm going to delete that one off. So let's get this to the face first. And that ended on the back side, so let's flip that around. And then let's grab the bottom. And set that to. Alright, almost there. So come in and turn these planes off. Save it, check it in. Alright, so this looks a lot better than where we were, and I think we can get rid of the assembly planes. So the side members need to be opened, and let's make a change in that. When I went through and did the calculations, I didn't think of the thickness of the each of the ends. So 0.75 times 2. Let's see if these extrusions will update. So we've got a problem with a sketch here. The end point of this piece right here should be on the end point right there. Let me go to wireframe. Come back into sketch. Might be better just to go to a horizontal command. It is fighting me on that. All right. I'm going to delete this off, create another line, come across. Purposely overextend. Take the end of that point and bring it back to how did that end up fixed? I'll have to go back and watch the video to see where I did that. Alright, that cut looks good. That looks. Let's change the view back to realistic. Here I thought about 5 minutes ago I was going to have this done. Have this done in an hour. There we go. That looks good. Alright. Hit refresh. Save. Yes to all. I'll check in. Hey, look at that. We're looking like a robot. Next video we'll go through and put covers on this and then put the hardware, mounting hardware in and put the holes in. And this is like the standard chassis minus gearbox.